Welcome back to my man cave. This is just an update on the stainless steel brass tumbler system that I designed here. In this I'll show you a few new things I found and a few tips to make it a little bit easier. Another item somebody commented on was the initial bracket that I had on here for tightening the motor against the turn wheel. Here was somewhat complicated to make. This is my second tumbler that I made, and this one is literally just an L bracket, bolt here with a T-nut on the bottom, and this one, if it's not catching right, I loosen it up, rotate it. You can see it's not much to rotate here. Then when I get it where I want it, just tighten it back down, and then you won't have to build that complicated tightening system that I did on the first one. Question somebody else came up with, they said that the motor, the original one I made, it moved in a clockwise direction here. They could only find a motor with a counterclockwise direction. So you can see, you can just take the design here and flip these motors around to get it to work either with counterclockwise or clockwise direction. Really easy to change over. And they both run, this one's running counterclockwise and this one's running clockwise. Just had to move this motor from here over here for the counterclockwise. Still works perfectly fine. An item that came up was somebody wrote and asked me where they could get this Delrin. This is what I use for a bearing surface here. It's very smooth, very slippery, very durable, and he couldn't find it for any place reasonable other than on eBay for quite a excessive amount. And my answer was the only reason that I use the Delrin is because that I had it laying around and it seemed like a good choice. If this hadn't been laying around, I would have used a piece of hard oak here or a piece of hard maple, and that would have worked just as fine for a bearing. Worst comes to worst, this might wear out after 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you might have to replace it with another piece of scrap wood. The first update I have on the stainless steel tumbler, in the first video, I started out with applesauce jars and cleaned them up and put them on there, and that would spin around the stainless steel and brass. It worked perfectly well, but then I was wondering if there were any other larger jars in the Walmart. So I was walking down the Walmart aisles and I came across this, which is substantially bigger than this. And it turns out that this is much better for tumbling than the small applesauce jars. I did have to cut a scallop on the side of this so as this revolved around here, it wouldn't rub. So it works much better that way, carrying a lot more brass in it. And weight is no issue. It was rolling right along there. One thing that you would find useful is having a funnel around. I couldn't find a really nice funnel that would fit my needs perfectly, so I made one. I took an applesauce jar, cut it off around here. You can see where I cut it off. Then I found an old pot or plate cleaner. You've seen these before. They squish out the soap and you can wash your dishes with it. My wife throws them away as soon as they get discolored. So I took the saw and cut it off here, cut it off here, slid that piece into here, and hot melt glued it in. And now it's a perfect funnel. And you can see what it looks like on the inside. This is OXO brand, if that helps anybody. So the next step would be adding the brass to here. So I still store all my brass in the applesauce jars. This holds 525 pieces, and it works out that when I go to dump them in here, that gives me that gives me just the right amount of room in here to tumble. So next I'd add about 2.5 pounds of stainless steel pins. And about 1/4 teaspoon of Lemmy Shine. And I found the best thing to use instead of dishwashing soap is some type of car wax. That the cars wash and wax on inside. So I'll put about 1 tablespoon of car wax in there. Car wax and wash, actually. I find it does an excellent job at cleaning, but also leaves a nice shiny surface on top of the brass when it's done. Hopefully that'll protect it a little bit also from oxidation. The wax that it leaves on, I do find it lubricates the shells a little bit better going through my press, so that's another plus. And right now, I'll go and fill this up with water and be right back. Okay, I put the water in it, and the water comes up to about there. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I run this for an hour to an hour and a half. An hour usually just does it beautifully for what I'm looking for. It cleans everything out. If you wanted to be a perfectionist, you could run it for an hour and a half or 2 hours. The other thing is after I put this, it's all polished, I pour it into my tumbler media separator and tumble all the pins out. But then I do not rinse the brass. I try to keep as much of that soap and wax on the brass as possible. I don't want to wash any of it off. I spread it out on a towel and let it dry. So here it goes going here. So you can see no problems there. In an hour it'd be more than plenty clean. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.